a Las
Yeah.
Vegas insider, or I guess you'd call it a beat writer for the Raiders, has been talking. And have you guys seen all the national guys, like big time names? Everyone's kind of pinning Ben Johnson to the Raiders, like it's already going to happen. I've seen pretty reputable guys talk about it. And another Sports Illustrated writer, shout out to the doc. We got 3 in one day we're talking about. Hondo Carpenter said the Raiders could look to trade for Hooker if they hire Johnson. And he talks about how Hendon Hooker knows Ben Johnson's system. And and it could happen. And he talked about also in the article that the Lions can get they could probably get comparable to what they drafted him with, which would be a 3rd round pick, or maybe a little higher. Who knows? I'll say this about it. I still don't think Ben Johnson to the Raiders makes much sense. And I've spoke about this because the Raiders in that division, who the Raiders have at quarterback or who they don't have at quarterback, and who's around them at quarterback and at head coach. So, like, it's a tough situation. Not even it's a brutal situation. The only thing they have going for them is Tom Brady. That is it. They have Tom Brady, and he's the guy that's probably going to pitch to Ben the most, and he's going to be the guy that Ben probably looks at the most and goes, it is Tom Brady talking to me. I got to listen. But this Hendon Hooker thing, I don't hate it. If Ben leaves, I don't want to discount the thought that Ben could acquire Hendon Hooker, and I'll explain to you why. What use at this point does Hendon Hooker have to the Detroit Lions? I'll answer it. Nothing. There is nothing at this point. Jared's extended. He's their franchise. Hendon will never play unless there's an injury, which at that point, just go get a backup. Go get someone that you just pay for and that could just back up Jared. Hendon has sat in the system. He is a competitor. He was highly respected coming out of college. He's a guy that, for a fact, wants to start somewhere at some point. And he's not young either. He's, ball don't lie, just put in the chat, which I was going to bring up, 27 years old for Hendon Hooker. So he wants to get reps in as a starter, and I do believe where Ben goes, he could be in play. Is it the Raiders? I don't know. But obviously it would have to be a team that doesn't already have a quarterback. So I don't hate the thought of Ben, if he doesn't have a quarterback wherever he goes, to get Hendon, but I still hate the Raiders as a destination. That's where I'm at. I think it's interesting to bring up. In the Lions, go profit. Make something off of Hendon Hooker. Go trade him and get your 3rd round at least back for Hendon, because he is no use to you sitting. He's no use. Like, Teddy was brought in for the playoffs. Like, that's where I'm at with it, fellas. That's where I'm at with the report.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think Ben, head coaching career-wise at the beginning, like, that is a destination to go and just ruin your career, in my opinion. When you look at it, Ben Johnson will have little success there. And that's not even like a Ben Johnson thing. If Ben Johnson gets hired there, he will now be the 4th coach added to their payroll over the last 4 seasons. That is just a huge ownership problem. I think, Booner, what you were saying, where they just need to fire everybody in Chicago, you need to do the same thing in Vegas. I mean, the Hendon Hooker thing, I feel like it's their best option, unless you want to go sign Sam Darnold to a Baker Mayfield contract. But I don't think that's very attractive to a team that's got Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, and now Bo Nix emerging. So you bring in Hendon Hooker, get a 2nd, 3rd round pick. Great job, Brad Holmes. I love that move. But now you're asking Hendon Hooker to go up against the Broncos defense, the Chiefs defense, and Chargers defense, who was ranked as the highest defense in the NFL this year. So I think it'd be a terrible situation for both parties. The Raiders need a culture guy. I think offensive mind in Oakland, or in Vegas, will do absolutely nothing. I think Ben Johnson, he would probably not finish out his contract there. So I think it'd be a bad destination for both. But like you said, the only thing that they got going for him is Brady. But I do not think that's going to be enough to pull Ben Johnson, unless they're just throwing him an absolute bag. But in my opinion, in a guy like Ben Johnson's position, that's just screaming desperate. And I don't want to go to a desperate franchise. I want to go to a winning franchise. So I don't like Vegas.
Don't hate it, Klotz. I mean, to be quite frank, it sounds like Ben Johnson is kind of the leader in the clubhouse to go to Las Vegas. So he there's something about that whole situation that he likes. The Hendon Hooker thing, Jeff, as a Lions fan, and this is me, I don't speak, and I know I got in trouble one time for saying, hey, I speak for Detroit Lions fans. People don't like that, I guess. I'm not going to speak for everyone, but for me, I'm pretty like content. Like, okay, give us a pick that Brad Holmes can turn into a Pro Bowler for Hendon Hooker. We'll move on from him. Guess who you have for the next 3 or 4 years? A quarterback that might have just gotten you a 15-2 record, potentially a Super Bowl, and took you to an NFC Championship game. So I'm not going to stress about that. Great for Ben Johnson. If he wants to go to Vegas, take Hendon Hooker and try that whole experience out. Good with that. I think if Ben goes to Vegas, I think it's like, hey, go draft your own quarterback. Go get someone. Go sign someone. Make a big move to be able to get your quarterback when you're there. If Hendon Hooker, if he feels that's the move, okay. But I don't think that's like, on my end at least, I just don't think like, it's not a needle mover for me. It's not. Like, I'm not going to sit there and be like, oh my gosh, what a move for Ben. Like, just be like, okay, like he's going to try him out, but like, is he the franchise guy in Vegas? Like, I don't think if Ben Johnson went to Al Davis, or is it Mark Davis? Sorry, not Al. I was watching some old videos today about Al Davis. But if he went to the Raiders and Mark Davis and Tom Brady and said, hey, boys, I'm going to tell you what. I'm going to come here. I'm going to bring Hendon Hooker in here, and I'm going to tell you what. He's going to change your franchise for. I don't think that they're not going to be like, yes, Ben, let's go. Give us Hendon. I just don't think that. So I think there's a different plan in place. Yeah, maybe he does bring Hendon Hooker and gives him a chance. But I think to go there, and to Klotz's point, like to change everything, I think it's like, hey, you have to have a solidified, like, hey, this is the quarterbacks I liked in the draft. Potentially, these are some guys we can go out and get. Like, have a plan, not just, hey, I'm going to show up and we're going to turn Hendon Hooker into your franchise guy. Like, I just don't think that's like a solidified plan to change around this. Like I don't think the Raiders look at that as a. They've just gone through 5, 6, 7 quarterbacks that were later picks trying to make their a name in the league, and none of it's worked out.
Yeah, I don't think it's a conversation about him being like a franchise quarterback. I think it's just a conversation about Ben going. So if he were to go to the Raiders, and they're going to get a franchise quarterback at some point, maybe who knows? Maybe Hendon's that. I don't want to act like I'm arguing that. But to get a quarterback that knows his system and sat in it for 2 years, I don't hate that idea. For at least someone just to keep the ship afloat at the very minimum, and then they can draft whoever they want. So, I mean, we'll see what happens with that. The Raiders thing, man, I don't know how true it is. I know the Raiders Coach Walk put in there. Shout out to him. I want to read it so I can pull up what. Yeah, here we go. Coach Walk. They are paying something like $60 million in coaches. John Gruden's still being paid. Mike McDaniel's still being paid, and Antonio Pierce is now being paid. And also they're paying GMs, by the way. So Mike Mayock,
yeah,
Tom Telesco,
Guru.
They're paying these GMs, man. Like, still. So it's a lot of money in payroll. So they're probably thinking our next guy we can't fire. Like, I think the Raiders, it wasn't there reports that like they're one of the brokest ownerships, or not, I shouldn't say broke. But you get my point. Like, in terms of ownerships, they're not. They're a little more
sure their revenue
than everyone else.
Their revenue's probably dipped so far down. So, I mean, the only thing they have market-wise is, I mean, you got Brock Bowers now, which is definitely good, but Max Crosby. And you're talking about a tight end and a defensive end. Like, you're not pulling in money. You're not as an organization. Nobody. That's not selling tickets. Christian Wilkins, where was he this year? Don't know.
Hey, what's going on there? It's Jeff Iafrate. Appreciate you for finishing the video. You can check out one of the videos here suggested, or show support by commenting, liking, and subscribing. And buy your merchandise, officialctsports.com.